Lustre Parfait by Gord Downie and Bob Rock. So Lustre Parfait is the first and only studio album by the late Gord Downie and Bob Rock. It was released on May 5th, 2023. It is actually the second album of previously unreleased material following Downie's death in 2017. The album features songs Downie and Rock created together in the 2010s after Rock produced the tragically hip albums World Container and We Are the Same. All right, Eric, your thoughts on this album? Because I know you're a huge hip fan. This is gonna be interesting because you're the hip fan here, and I am the not hip fan. Not that I hate the Tragically Hip, but I'm just like I've never been a fan of that band.
So I have once I found out this was coming out, I was like a giddy schoolgirl, just like I cannot wait for this to come out. I guess first of all, don't go into this album thinking it's going to be a Tragically Hip album, because a lot of people think that, oh, Gord Downie has solo stuff, it's going to be like the Hip. It's not. His lyrics are still like, his songs are very poetic like they are in the Hip, but the music's different. That being said, I think that this is the best solo album, because I would consider this a part of his solo work. This is his best solo album that he's created. And I absolutely love this album. I have been listening to this nonstop. You kind of get that Tragically Hip feel with it. But also you kind of get like Gord Downie's very poetic, like just Gord Downie, like unleashed, which I absolutely love. There's just so much I want to talk about this album.
We have all the time in the world.
Yeah, because we got through the news pretty quick.
Yep.
I guess the one thing that I love about it was, actually, you know what? I'm going to start with the negative, because there was little negative that I found with this album. Like, there are some like, if you have listened to Gord Downie's solo stuff, there are some songs you're just like, this is very strange to me. Like the one previously that he wrote just after he died. I can't remember what it's called, but it's kind of like a whitish album with kind of like ominous, like purple color kind of smeared on it or whatever. I felt like that was way too artistic in the sense it's just like, this is a little strange. So he does have a little bit of that, but I feel like because he's been working on this since 2010, he didn't really get a chance to finish the work. So I felt like there were some missing links to the puzzle. And the reason why I'm mentioning that was because in the Tragically Hip album World Container, I felt like if I was to take a Tragically Hip album and say this is a concept album, that would be a concept album to me, because there were songs on this album such as here, I'm just gonna pull up the,
while you're looking for that, Sarah, thanks for tuning in. Have a good night.
There's songs on here. So Is There Nowhere, which is like a slow kind of like if you listen to the song, it almost like poetically, it's like this about this guy kind of just in this rut that he's just paying his bill, drinking his coffee, kind of like there's nowhere to expand. I'm trapped, pretty much. It's almost like it's a bit of a sad, depressing song. And then you get into The Safest Day of the Year, which is using the same lyrics. This was in the World Container album with the song Pretend. And then there was another song on the album, I can't think of it, but it was almost similar. Like it kind of told this story. So I felt like there was a story that he was trying to tell here that kind of was lacking a bit. So I could feel that this album was going to be longer if Gord Downie was still around. I think that there would have probably been a good handful of songs added to this that didn't make the recording.
Yeah. No, and to add on to that point, like I forget which song. It might have been The North Shore, but it's the one with female backing vocals on it. Like there's definitely vocal takes here that if Gord Downie was still alive, I'm pretty sure would have been redone, because there are specific chorus lines where Gord Downie's voice cuts out and the female vocal keeps going. Like if he was still alive, I'm pretty sure he would have held that note for longer, because it just made sense. But
Yeah.
because there wasn't a take of him holding the note longer, it sounded weird because he cuts off and the female vocal keeps going, holding the note. So like there's definitely instances where they've just, this is the best we can do, so we're just gonna fit it in.
Well, exactly. And from what I've read about create when the album was being created was that a lot of the production happened obviously after he died. So
Yep.
it was like they had these songs, but they weren't even like mixed yet. So I could see where those kind of issues would arise, right? Because Bob Rock is a well-known
Mhm.
producer. Like he's produced a lot of like things that turn into gold, right?
Yep.
Um, and and I felt like he was like a perfect whenever he produced a Tragically Hip album. I always was like I was excited because it was gonna sound good
Mhm.
no matter what. So that is the only really negative thing I can say about this album. I'm gonna get into the positive, but I love the way Gord Downie takes words and puts them together, which don't seem like they would fit. And I'm gonna use the album name and even the song Lustre Parfait, right?
Mm,
Like I just love the way he uses words together, like the
yeah.
tragically, like to be tragically hip,
Yeah.
right? Like
Hmm.
that's like it's kind of like unique, right? Like luster meaning a gentle sheen of soft glow, and then you have this parfait, which is like this delicate dessert in this fancy cup. Like it's almost just like it kind of like gives you this like artistic visual,
Yeah.
which is kind of neat. I love the way he tells a story in his songs. Like he does it like simply well, but also very metaphorically well. And I'm going to use the Raven and the Red-tailed Hawk.
So good. Yep.
It's
Hmm.
such a good song, and in fact, I'm going to bring up the lyrics because he paints such a great picture. Like I'm gonna use. I watched a raven hop, 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 rock, rock, rock to rock, right? And you can just picture this raven hopping down the road, right?
Yeah.
And what I love about this song is he takes, or what I like about Gord Downie is that he takes Canadian history or anything Canadian culture and really gives a visual and amplifies it in his song. So the raven and the red-tailed hawk are very significant in Native American culture, right? Especially in Canadians. Maybe in the States, you may be like, wow, this tribe doesn't do that. Like, we're not here to discuss that. But um, we're here to discuss. So the raven and the hawk, like the red-tailed hawk in nature, they never get along, right?
Hmm.
They're always at each other's throats, right? Very protective birds. And but in Native American history, like culture, they're believed to have worked together to bring the light into the world, right? Which is very odd. So it's kind of like the moral of the story is kind of, um, even though you might not get along with everybody in the tribe, we work together for a common good,
Hmm.
right? So and it really paints a great picture with the song lyrics. It's almost like that visual, like you have this raven doing his own thing, and then he really like he almost like humanizes it to the point where you're just like when he says yesterday I saw a raven picking at the empty hard hat rocking by the side of the road. I tossed a rock, it echoed, and then he says look down and stare. I shouldn't care, because obviously they hate each other, but they're trying to get along. So it's almost just like, why is this bothering me? But I'm just gonna keep doing my own thing. But he does such a good like way of just making that
Yeah.
fit into a song,
No, like,
right?
and just to reiterate that, I mean, the one line that just sticks with me even today, when listening to this album is off this song. Like, what is it? Yesterday, I watched that hawk just staring at a raven picking at some empty helmet by the road. Like when he like sang that, I was like, holy shit, that's a line. That's like,
Yeah.
those are freaking like great imagery. And not to go back to last week where we talked about Ed Sheeran's album, but like
Went down to the bay, ate
but
some
like
hay.
this is the big difference between these two artists, right? One is sort of like
Mm.
a primary school student, and one is like a legitimate like PhD artist. Like, this is
Mhm.
what you do with lyrics, right? If you're gonna strip down songs to like the bare minimum, and not saying that this album is like just in the guitar and vocals, but like if your main bread and butter is songwriting and lyrics, right? This is what you do with lyrics. This is how,
Mhm.
like, you're supposed to, like, reach out to people, give them an image or give them some sort of like message, and not just like just whatever Ed Sheeran did on that album, on Minus or Subtract or whatever frick it's called. Like, this
Yeah.
is like top tier lyrics from Gord
Oh,
Downie.
like one of the things that resonates with me is off the sun something more. When the line is some things are worth losing for, baby, let's try to be something more. um because usually it's just like there's that, you know, you don't know what you have until you lose it or whatever. But it's like that's labeled as a negative context, but like the way he's saying it, some things are worth losing, right? So it's almost just like this deep heaviness that it's like, yeah, you know what, that experience sucked, but it was worth it in the long end.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So like he's very good at using words to just paint that picture,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. Anything else for you to say before I move until or before I get into my stuff?
I mean, it was neat to see all the musicians that contributed to this album. Like you got Johnny Faye, drummer from Tragically Hip, played on a few of the songs. Gord Downey's brother, Patrick Downey, played percussion. I don't know if he was just like shaking the egg or whatever, but I mean, like it was kind of neat just seeing all these like Canadian studio musicians who've had like a huge play in like the Tragically Hip
Mm-hmm.
and Gord Downey's life just come together to make this album like sing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Ben is saying that this album is very emotional. He listens to it and gets goosebumps. Yeah, just like those lyrics, man. Like, Gord Downie really can paint a picture with his songs. Um,
Mhm.
Even the first track, Gray Boy Says, like if you just look at the title, Gray Boy Says, like it's
Mhm.
already interesting to me,
Yeah.
right? It's like, what is this song about? Gray Boy
Yeah.
Says. It's so interesting. So obviously we've talked about the lyrics here being like, A
Mhm.
plus 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 plus, and I'm in total agreement. Like, the lyrics here, you can't touch that. It's like, it's so good.
Yeah.
So I will only talk about the negative stuff, because we could talk about the lyrics all day, and like they're
Mhm.
just so good. But I don't know. And this is sort of a problem I have with the Tragically Hip also, is instrumentally I've always found it lacking, or at least
Mhm.
there was never anything interesting outside of Gord Downie's voice and lyrics, right?
Mhm.
Like, when I listen to these songs, the only like unique characteristic of these songs that I can use to differentiate from track 1 to whatever 14 uh is the vocals. Because,
Mhm.
like, sure, on some of the songs there's horns and that makes it a bit different, but there's no like guitar riff that I could say, oh yeah, that is a completely different song from this. Or like, instrumentally, I just, there was nothing interesting for me to latch onto on this album.
Mhm.
There were definitely some really good songs instrumentally, but it wasn't unique enough. When I listened to a lot of these songs, I was like, these songs really sound like 80s rock bands, like April Wine, UB40.
Mhm.
Like, a lot of these songs were stuck in that sort of past, which is fine because that's what Bob Rock. I assume Bob Rock did a lot of the instrumentation afterwards.
Mhm.
Um, but it wasn't a modern sounding album to me when I listened to these tracks. A lot of
Mhm.
these were stuck in that sort of 80s rock band mode,
Yeah.
which, I don't know. For me, I would have preferred a more modern, more, I don't know, timeless arrangement to these songs. Because I honestly, I think like rock bands in the 80s, they were too generic, using like way too many horns, way too many synthesizers in their music. But some people did like it, so I don't know. That might just be a preference thing
Mm.
there.
I mean, I do agree with you, and that's where I like for me the solo stuff for Gord Downie in the past, like when he was alive, like there was always a few songs that I loved off of his albums, but some of them were just too weirdly artistically and I understand what you mean, but like some of the instrumentation is just flat,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's just like this is, but um, I mean, like going to the hip, and I feel like I'm like a huge defender of the hip, right? Like Gord Downie's the front man, right? And everybody knows the Tragically Hip as Gord Downie. If I was to differentiate probably other members of the band, I would say Rob Baker, the lead guitar player. He comes up with these unique licks
Right.
in the band. However, Rob Baker's not playing on this album. Um, we're talking about like Bob Rock's doing most of the guitar work
Yep.
in this. I think at that point he was trying to just make it generic so it sounds good to people. Because like I do agree, there were some songs there was just like, oh, if they got rid of some of the horns, like I just felt like it was a little bit over amplified.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, and maybe that's unfair because like why are you listening to a Gord Downie record? You're listening to for his voice and his lyrics, right?
yeah,
No one's coming into this record thinking we're getting an Eddie Van
guitar
Halen
player's
guitar solo.
bullshit.
Yeah.
This drummer sucks.
Yeah, like why is the
Mm,
song not in 5/4? Why are they playing in such simple rhythms and
yeah.
to a certain extent it's a bit unfair to just like focus on the instrumentation, but I feel like there was more. You could have pushed it more. Like there could have been
Mm.
something a bit more interesting in the instrumentation to push the vocals even further. Um, but
I mean, that's true because like they did have like they've been working on this since 2010. So like I agree. Like they could have really, but for what it is, I think that it was well laid out in
mm,
terms of the tracks, obviously what they had. But I did feel like there was just something missing. And I think that this was going to be because usually his solo stuff are more of a, like a concept, like poetic album, and I feel like that's what this was going for. But it was great to hear Gord Downie play because you could tell
mm,
like the last Tragically Hip album that was recorded, like you could just tell it's like it's Gord Downie, but
yeah,
it's not him,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
It's like obviously something was going on, right?
yeah.
But
And Ben mentions that like he emotionally connected with this album because
mm,
it's such like the hip is such an integral part to his music listening experience, which like I get like I don't think this album coming out produces new fans of Gord Downie or like this album really is for Tragically Hip fans slash Gord
yeah,
Downie fans. Like I
mm,
don't think Bob Rock went into this like trying to make a hit record, which I think is the right approach for something like this.
mm. Like I could see that the song that will stand out from these is the Raven and the Red-tailed Hawk
Yeah.
for sure, because it's like a lot of people who love like you said, this album's for Tragically Hip fans and Gord Downie fans, and people who are like just the Tragically Hip fans are like that sounds like a Tragically Hip song,
Mm.
like that sounds like I could picture the band playing that live,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right?
Yeah. But there's like great songs on this. Like I love the North Shore on this one.
Uh-huh.
To Catch the Truth is a great song. Even Safest Day of the Year. Like there's
Yeah.
so many lines in this album that just stick with you when you hear it. And like
I know, even with a song like Camaro,
yeah,
like
it's a stupid song,
it's
but
it's
it's
it's a
great.
stupid song, but it's like kind of like when you're in this like I wouldn't say midlife crisis, but like you're older, you're like all coming on 50, and you're like, I remember when I used to take this Camaro and it was such great. Like that's what it reminded me of, right? Obviously, we never had Camaros growing up, so we couldn't relate to the
it,
song, but like as stupid as the song is, like I
yeah.
thought it was kind of neat.
Yeah,
right?
for me, it's like on that level of what's that Queen song? I'm in love with my car. Like it was
Yeah,
on that same level. Like this is the dumbest concept for a song, but it's still a really good song.
yeah.
um, Ben had a
There you
Camaro.
go.
See, perfect. This is the perfect album for you, man.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, like it's it's a good album. It's a good album despite its flaws because
Mm,
there is just something special about whatever Gord Downie is or does. Like, there's just
mhm.
something special about this album, and he's like a true artist, like a real
Mhm.
artist. Um, Now, if he was still alive, would this album be better? There would be better takes for sure.
Mhm.
Probably a bit better on the production side, but I'm not sure that instrumentally it would have been different or a whole lot different, anyways. Because, like, from what
Yeah.
I've listened to in the Tragically Hip and his other solo stuff, like, this is sort of in the ballpark of what he's always done.
Mhm. But like for some reason, like I could picture so well him playing some of these songs live. Like
Mm-hmm.
I can actually close my eyes and visualize him with just his movements and everything. Like I just know exact and that's what I like Ben, I connect with this album. Like I am a huge Gord Downie fan. He's one of my biggest inspirations in music. And but I do get what you mean. I get what you mean about it. Like yeah, it might have been better takes for sure. I think there would be a little bit more songs on the album,
Mm-hmm.
but I do agree it wouldn't have been much
Yeah, it
more.
wouldn't have been much different, I
Yeah.
don't think. Ben wants to know if we agree this album needed to happen. Yeah, of course. Like if there are vocal takes done by Gord and it's to this quality, you have to like work on it and release it. Like
Mhm.
there's no reason not to. Even if I think instrumentally this album relatively is boring, like that's not the point of this record, right? Like the point of this record is to get his like thoughts and his feelings, his words out, right? That's why you put out this album.
Exactly. And to give Bob Rock any kind of credit, like he was having issues with him. Like he's like, should I release this or should
Mm,
I not?
right.
Like because he was really struggling with it because obviously they were really good friends, and it was probably hard for him to even just like I felt like he did a great job like producing it
Yes.
to the point where it's just like you could really tell he waited until it was at what he wanted it to be to get it out, and it wasn't like I want to make money off of this. He was definitely releasing this to pay homage to
Yep.
Downey, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So
for sure. Yeah, no, like production wise, it's a phenomenal like record. It sounds so good. My gripe really is just like the instrumentation. Like it should have really, and I say should have, but like there should have been something more exciting,
mm,
or I want something more exciting. Now, is that what Gord Downie would have done? Probably not, but that's the only thing that I'm always missing in a Gord Downie song or a Tragically Hip song for the most part. Like obviously, there's some really cool riffs that Tragically Hip do, um, but
mm,
overall, like I always feel like it's sort of flat instrumentally.
mm.
Okay. Final thoughts ratings since we've had a lengthy discussion about this one.
Um, yeah, I mean, like I was very happy this made it to the list of episodes, and I absolutely love this album. Um, I do agree with Ben. It's almost to the point where it's like I feel like I kind of want to add it to my vinyl art if I should come across it, and it's a good deal. But yeah, like I'm gonna give this a 9 out of 10.
Oh wow,
Nine out of
nice.
10, despite its flaws, which I agree
Mm.
with you. I 100% agree with you on its flaws. I just have to like this album means a lot to me, and I love it. I love everything about it, and I still think that Raven and the Red Tailed Hawk is probably the best song on the album. I think so.
Yeah, Raven and the Red Tail Hawk. Oh, it's such a
Yeah.
good song. It's so good. I just had a thought. What would happen if, in some bizarre world, Rush was the band that backed up Gord Downie?
That would be interesting because, um, like I would even give credit to Neil Peart being a great songwriter as
Mm-hmm.
well because he's writing most of the majority of the lyrics, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like they would that would be interesting to see them collaborate a song.
Yeah, like Geddy Lee doesn't sing. This is Gord Downie singing on top of a
Hmm.
Rush. Oh my god, that would be something that I feel like would be really good. That'd be so cool.
Yeah.
There will be an AI that will write that one day.
Yeah.
For me,
Closer to the heart.
this is this is an 8 out of 10 for me. Despite my gripes with just generally the instrumentation of this album, you can't really argue with like pure like artistry. Like this level of lyricism, the level of delivery also in Gord's vocals. Like
Mhm.
Gord does not have the best voice in the world. Like let's not
No, but it works.
yeah,
It
let's not
works
kid
though.
ourselves here. He's not the best singer,
Mhm.
but no one can deliver those lines better than he can. That's
Yeah,
the
like
thing.
it and it's funny because like I agree. Like he's not I wouldn't say he's a top 5 vocalist. I would put him in the top 5 songwriters
Mm,
like in terms of lyrics, right? But yeah, like he just has this way like, and it just fits with the band. Like
yeah.
it just even with his like Gord Downie live is just as good uh, I still think Freddie Mercury is probably one of the best frontmen of
Mhm.
all time, but I feel like Gord Downie is up there.
Yeah. Yeah. Because he's able to do something with his voice that like not a
Mhm.
lot of people can do. It's just like this is what I'm feeling, and I'm going to make you feel what I'm feeling. Like not a
Mhm.
lot of people can do that. So, but yes, it's an 8 out of 10 for me, simply just because the lyrics, the delivery, it's just so good that it's like you have to listen to it.
Mhm.
But don't go into this thinking it's some like, musical masterpiece because it isn't.
Mhm. No.
Uh, what is Ben saying? You sing
You
like
sing like
Gordy,
Gordy, Eric.
Eric.
Let's
Let's
go.
go.
Let's faux. Let's go for faux.
What?
I don't think so. But that is a compliment, and I will take it. Thank you.
All right, Eric. Yours is a 9 out of 10. Mine's an 8. So pretty close.
Mhm.
Not bad, not bad. But I do recommend listening to some because I think it's great.
Yeah.
All right. So that is our discussion about Lustre Parfait. It's a great album. Um, for those of you following along with us every single week, the album we are going to be listening to and discussing will be Walk Around the Moon, the brand new Dave Matthews Band album.
Okay. So I do have this all uploaded then.
Julia, thanks for tuning in.
Okay.
Ben, have a good night. Um, I am not happy that this made the list, but we will be listening to
Mm,
this and giving our thoughts next week. Um,
mm.
I'll save my thoughts for next week because I'm not happy.
The ultimate hipster band.
I am not happy.
Mm.
I thought I would give them a fair
Uh,
chance, but I'm not happy.
I have not listened to anything off this yet, so I will. I feel like we're gonna have the same view on this.
All right.
So
Controversial statements, none this week. Very good, very good. Except Twitch banned me for using Downie in the title, which is stupid.
I
Um,
think that's an automatic controversial statement.
and that's it. That's the podcast. This is the Crossroads Music Podcast here at twitch.tv/the Crossroads Music Podcast. Catch us live here at 10 p.m. 10 p.m. ET, 7 p.m. PT. Otherwise, we're on Spotify, Apple Music, all the places where you get your podcasts. I believe this is our second last show for a little bit. So
Yes.
no, wait, is this our third last show? I know. I think this is our third last show. I feel like.
I think it's the second because we're moving to Wednesday.
Oh, right.
Wednesday
Okay,
next
so
week.
yes, next week will be
So
our last Monday show. That's what it is. Okay, perfect.
yes.
All righty. Well, that's it. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Eric, any closing thoughts, statements, words of wisdom before we wrap this up?
I've got nothing for you.
All right, perfect.
Thanks for tuning in.
All right, have a good night, everyone, and we will catch you all next time.